is day 7. Today is day 7 of 30 days of ASMR. I almost said 60 days of ASMR. We are doing 30 days of ASMR. That is a new ASMR video every single day for 30 days. Very exciting, very fun stuff. Today's video is going to be very interesting. You know me. You know I'm always fascinated by folklore, legends, international differences, cultural differences, all these really cool and engaging things. And I was thinking there's all kinds of interesting legends and folklore about Christmas from around the world. And I'm a Christmas boy. Love it. Always have loved it. Still love it. Big into it, as you can see. So I figured grab a nice cup of coffee and throw in some gum for the chewing sensibilities. And then, you know what, let's fire into it and let's explore some of the interesting folklore and legends from around the world. Now, bit of a warning. I was surprised to find how supernatural and kind of scary some of this stuff is. Like, Christmas to me growing up was like such a warm, positive thing. And I think that's true for other places that also celebrate Christmas, but there seems to be a little bit of a dark underbelly. But we'll explore that. We'll see a little bit more. Let's have a sip. Love a nice cup of coffee. Okay, guys. So today is day 7 of 30 Days of ASMR. I want to say thank you so much to everyone who has been joining in, participating, commenting, liking the videos, watching the videos. You guys are legends. I appreciate you. You're the best. And it's time for more. So let's get into it. So let me organize myself here, get everything together, and we are going to fire away in this cozy little winter day. Okay, number 1, Krampus. You've probably heard of Krampus. I have heard of Krampus, but I don't know much about Krampus. So let's find out a little bit more. From Austria and Germany, Krampus is a horned, goat-like creature who accompanies St. Nicholas during the Christmas season, specifically on Krampusnacht, December 5th. I might be saying that wrong. I'm so sorry. While St. Nicholas rewards good children with treats, Krampus punishes the naughty by swatting them with birch branches. Yo, wild. Other legends even say he stuffs particularly bad children in his sack and drags them to the underworld. Does the punishment meet the crime? Does it fit the crime? That's what I want to know. Only lifted. These figures likely originate from pre-Christian Alpine traditions. Very cool. Very interesting. I think that fear has always been like a great tactic for getting kids to behave, I guess. I don't know. I don't have kids. I don't really, outside of work, deal with kids. And, but I think if I, as a child, had the choice of being good and getting some candy, or being bad and getting stuffed in a sack and dragged to the underworld, probably I'm going to be good, right? Probably. But I don't know. That's very interesting. So Krampus, he sounds scary, horned, goat-like, swatting people with branches. Yikes. Yikes. Very interesting, though. Frau Berchta, Austria and Bavaria. Frau Berchta is a winter witch who roams the 12 days of Christmas enforcing moral behavior. She rewards the diligent with silver coins, but punishes the lazy with gruesome fate, cutting open their bellies and stuffing them with straw. What? Oh my gosh. Despite her severity, she was originally seen as a guardian of spinning and domestic crafts. Her legends blend pagan beliefs with Christian morality tales. Holy liftin'. Holy mackerel. That is wild and terrifying. I guess, you know, if you wanted to cultivate a spirit of productivity and hard work, then you would definitely be punishing the lazy. That seems like an extreme way to do that. I will say that. It's like the Scarecrow from Wizard of Oz. that scary, but very interesting. Frau Berchta. I've never heard of Frau Berchta before, so that's very interesting. Okay, we got the Yule Lads, Iceland. The Yule Lads are 13 mischievous brothers who descend from the mountains one by one in the days before Christmas. Each has a strange, often humorous quirk, like spoon licker, door slammer, or sausage swiper. Children leave shoes out so the lads can leave treats for the well-behaved, or rotten potatoes for the naughty. Though once frightened figures, they've become beloved holiday characters. That's pretty cool. It's very interesting. But you know what? I would rather get some rotten potatoes if I was particularly naughty than to have my belly opened up and stuffed with straw. That I will say. Listen, I haven't given it a lot of thought, but that's where I'm at on that, okay? Based on the quick napkin math that I just did, I'd rather the rotten potatoes. But that is very interesting. Okay, also in Iceland, and forgive the pronunciation, Grilla is a giantess who lives in the mountains and is the mother of the Yule Lads. She has an insatiable appetite and hunts for misbehaving children during Christmas, cooking them into stew. Oh my gosh. Her earliest appearances in Icelandic sagas paint her as a terrifying force of nature rather than a holiday mascot. She remains one of Iceland's most striking winter monsters. Yeah. There are so many interesting stories throughout history, folklore and legends around. I don't know if it's for discouraging misbehaving kids, or if it's like all these little cautionary tales. But I would be, it's like your option is to be good or face the onslaught of being beaten with sticks, turned into stew, receiving rotten potatoes. Not great, but not terrible, or being stuffed with straw. I would be the best behaved kid on the planet. I'm certain of it. I'm just saying. Alright, the Yule Cat, also Iceland. Iceland seems to have some really cool, really interesting Christmas adjacent, at least, folklore and legends. So the Yule Cat is a massive spectral feline said to prowl the countryside during Christmas. It devours anyone who has not received new clothes for the holiday. What? A superstition meant to encourage hard work during the autumn wool harvest. Its glowing eyes and enormous size make it a fearsome presence in folklore. The legend reinforces themes of community responsibility and preparedness for winter. Yeah, I mean, there's a whole supply chain that is dependent on, motivated by this giant cat. It's very crazy, wild. You don't even get to choose what you get as presents, right? Like, I mean, you can give a list, right? But what if you don't get any clothes? You're cooked. Let's say they don't make their quota with the wool stuff. You're cooked, right? So yeah, it takes a village. It takes a community to come together to hit those targets and avoid this massive spectral cat. It's gonna come down and eat you. It's gonna eat you. I will say that. Wild. Very interesting. Okay, again, with the pronunciation, Jolkajor's farmer legend, also in Iceland. Very cool. Iceland has some very interesting folklore. This version of the Yule Cat tale focuses on farmers who used the legend to motivate workers. If the seasonal wool work wasn't completed by Christmas, the cat would arrive to punish the lazy by consuming them. As one does. The belief added a supernatural urgency to important winter chores. Over time, the story evolved into a broader symbol of effort and reward. It makes sense. It's like, well, you'll get a bonus, right? A Christmas holiday bonus or something. And if you don't perform well, then you're gonna get eaten by a giant cat, right? It's like negative reinforcement versus positive reinforcement. I don't know which works better. I will say that if I believed that there was a giant spectral cat that was going to descend upon me and consume me if I didn't hit my quotas, be darn tootin', I will hit my quotas. For sure. Definitely. Okay, onwards. La Befana, Italy. La Befana is a kindly witch who flies on a broom delivering gifts to children on Epiphany Eve, January 5th. I think Epiphany is the day that the three wise men were to have visited the baby Christ, the baby Jesus. According to legend, she was invited by the wise men, okay, there we go, to visit the newborn Christ, but declined because she was too busy cleaning. Okay, alright, chores. But I mean, if it was any sign of the times, I don't know if the productivity fear was bleeding into the rest of Europe, right? Maybe it was. And so La Befana was like, if I don't get my chores done, I will be consumed by a spectral entity. And so, yes, tempting to be able to visit the Messiah, right? But I mean, I can't really blame her for that, right? You gotta get your stuff done. It's one of those things. I don't know what to think about it. Regarding her decision, she now travels the world searching for the child. Oh wow, leaving gifts for all. Amazing. We all benefit. Her story blends Christian tradition with older folk beliefs about winter goddesses. Very cool. So, La Befana is kind of like a witchy Santa, maybe. It seems that way. It's very interesting. Love that energy. Okay, Tomte or Nisse, Scandinavia. The Tomte or Nisse, I could be saying these wrong. Apologies. Is a small gnome-like household spirit who protects farms and families. He expects a bowl of porridge at Christmas, as one does, and failing to provide it can lead to mischief or even disaster. Yeah, I mean, I get it, right? At least one day a year, a piping hot bowl of porridge would go a long way, especially he's been grinding all year protecting the farm. These beings were once considered ancestral spirits tied to the land. Their modern, friendly depiction masks a traditionally much more unpredictable nature. I have heard that through podcasts and stuff, this idea of gnomes being unpredictable, maybe causing mischief if you don't respect or honor them. I've heard a bit about that. It's very interesting. I would give the dude some porridge, though. If I'm having porridge, you're having porridge. We're all having porridge. Love that stuff. Okay, the Mari Fluid Whales. I could be saying it wrong. Forgive me. The Mari Fluid is a decorated horse skull carried by revelers who go door to door, singing and engaging in rhyming battles called Wingo. Could be saying it wrong. Households must defend the Mari in a verbal duel. Are you kidding me? To keep her out. Losing means the skeletal visitor gains entry to eat food and cause playful chaos. The custom likely traces back to pre-Christian rituals associated with fertility and the return of light. Today, it's a striking mix of eerie, imaginary, and festive fun. I'm curious to know if this still happens. Imagine decorating a horse skull and then going door to door for rap battles. That's what I'm saying. Rap battles, right? Back and forth, back and forth. And I mean, I would be prepping for this all year. Those guys on TikTok who they're like, give me 3 words, like airplane, stardust, pickle, and Jebediah. And then they come up with this crazy, 3-minute rap that incorporates all of those things. It's the craziest thing. I would be epic at that if I was doing this, probably. because you gotta keep that out. You gotta keep that out for sure. Okay. Next up, we're back to Iceland. Gryla's Black Christmas. In darker variants of the Gryla legend, she doesn't just capture children, she brings famine and death if households fail to perform certain rituals. She was portrayed as a representation of winter's harshness and scarcity. These older versions emphasize survival and resourcefulness during the long, dark months. Later retellings softened her into a more mythical boogeyman. I can see, there is probably a lot of variation from year to year in terms of like the level of hostility of the winter months. In the Arctic, certainly in Iceland, they probably get crazy winter storms. So I mean, I could see respecting that force, right? Especially because it would have so much claim over how things are going to go for you and your family and your farm, right? That's wild and powerful. Okay, here we go. Dead Moroz, Russia. Dead Moroz, or Grandfather Frost, is a winter wizard who brings gifts to children on New Year's. In earlier folklore, he was far more sinister, freezing those who disrespected him or wandered into his icy domain. Over time, he transformed into a benevolent holiday figure, often accompanied by his granddaughter. Oh, I'm gonna rough this one up. Snegarachika. Sorry, it's tough. It ain't easy. His shift from threat to protector mirrors changing attitudes towards winter's dangers. I mean, that's what I was gonna say. It seems like this was like, more of like a parable with a lesson buried in it that you need to respect the winter conditions and like the power of the winter and going outside and risking freezing or having hypothermia and all this stuff. I could certainly see where this comes from, especially with like kids who could easily, you can get lost, you can get stuck, if you're not dressed appropriately, you can run into trouble. Okay. And next up is this Snegurochika in Russia, and I'm so sorry for my pronunciation. Reading is hard, and if you've never seen the word before and it's in another language, I'm trying to put my best foot forward. Here we go. The Snow Maiden is a magical girl formed from frost and snow. In one popular tale, she longs to experience human warmth and companionship, but tragically melts when she steps too close to a bonfire. She often appears alongside Dead Moroz as a symbol of purity in winter magic. Her story reflects themes of sacrifice and fleeting nature of beauty. That is so sad. That is so sad, right? Because she longs for that human connection. Maybe from the outskirts, she sees it, people gathered, snuggled up by the fire. She wants that, but she can't have it because she's made of ice and snow. And so the closer she gets to it, she melts. Kind of like, it's not the same, but like Olaf, right? He wants to experience the summer. I wonder if there's any drawings from folklore to build Olaf and his lore. Very interesting. The Kalikantzari in Greece. I'll make sure I'm spelling this right, or saying this right. Kalikantzari. Okay. They're goblin-like creatures who emerge during the 12 days of Christmas to cause mischief. They're said to spend the rest of the year sawing the world tree that holds up the earth. Okay, wow. When Christmas arrives, they abandon their work to torment humans. By the time they return, the tree is healed. Their antics explain winter chaos and the rest of the natural cycle. Oh, that's interesting. Very interesting. I wonder, it's so interesting to me that, all of these very different cultures, separated by geography, have all come to these legends and folklore that involve, this symbolism of, promoting productivity, good behavior, and avoiding mischief, and punishing laziness. And that makes sense, but it's interesting that there's been some overlaps, right? These, goblin-like creatures that emerge in the days leading up to Christmas, and then we've just heard about other ones that are kind of like that. That is so interesting to me. Alright, next up is Tio de Nadal, Caga Tio in Catalonia. Caga Tio is a cheerful wooden log with a painted face that children care for throughout December. They feed him treats and tuck him under their blanket, believing he grows fuller. On Christmas, they beat him with sticks while singing songs that encourage him to poop gifts and sweets. The quirky tradition blends humor with old fertility rituals involving logs and abundance. That is so interesting. So they feed this thing to keep it warm, and then they beat it up. Give me presents. Come on, give me those gifts and sweets. You know, wild. I've never heard of that before. But you know what I like about this one? It gives the kids something to do, right? You want these kids to be occupied, right? Probably entertained. So you give the kid a stick or a log, and you're like, this is your baby now. You have to feed it and care for it, and then, you're gonna basically beat it up with sticks in the end, but not yet, right? So they have to do all these things along the way. I don't know. It's interesting to me. Very cool. Okay, Christmas spider legend, Ukraine. This folktale tells of a poor family who couldn't afford to decorate their Christmas tree. Overnight, spiders spun delicate webs across the branches, and when the sun rose, they turned into silver and gold. The miracle brought the family good fortune. Today, spider ornaments and tinsel are popular symbols of luck in Ukrainian Christmas celebrations. That is very cool. I find that so interesting. I think spiders are so scary, but also beautiful and fascinating. That's where I'm at on that. The snow snake, Iroquois nation. The snow snake is a mysterious serpent spirit said to glide over frozen landscapes during winter. It's often blamed for unexplained tracks, sudden chills, or misfortunes encountered in the snow. The creature also features a traditional winter game involving sliding wooden snow snakes across icy fields. Its legend blends sport, storytelling, and the dangers of the cold season. I mean, the winter is so dark and so cold, and there are very real risks associated with it. Leaving the warmth and the comfort of your home and getting outside into the unpredictable dropping temperatures, the crazy weather, the blizzards. You can lose visibility very quickly. There are so many risks that come with that season of winter, so it makes good sense to me. Okay. Oh, this is a good one. So the Kali Kansari Midnight Feast in Greece. Some stories say the Kali Kansari slip into homes at night to spoil food or overturn tables. Households protected their kitchens by sealing cracks, hanging garlic, and marking doors with crosses. These goblins were viewed as both comical and threatening, embodying winter disorder. The tradition reflects anxieties around food security in harsher months. Yeah. This is making so much sense, right? Because Christmas seems to take place during that early winter phase, right? And there's so many risks associated with it as well. It's darker, it's colder. People kind of are drawn inward, and yeah, certainly, especially in the olden days, food scarcity was a real problem during the winter. So that's so interesting. The Christmas goblins of Serbia. In Serbia, groups of costumed children once impersonated goblins who would capture passing villagers. Their victims had to pay a small ransom in sweets and coins to be released. It was a playful way of ensuring children received treats during the holiday season. So you kidnap people and hold them ransom. And we're calling that playful. Okay, cool. Over time, the practice blended caroling, pranks, and costume play. I'm sure if it was all in good fun. If you don't give me some sweets and gold coins, I'm gonna keep Grandma for a week. Everyone's laughing. I'm sure someone was like, yo, please keep her for a week. They're like, no. Coins. I could be saying it wrong. I apologize. So, Jolubuki, the Yule goat, originated as a horned figure who travels from house to house demanding offerings. He wasn't initially friendly. In fact, people feared him. Over the centuries, he transformed into a Santa-like bringer of gifts, riding with reindeer and wearing red robes. His shift reflects the blending of ancient pagan symbols with modern Christmas imagery. Wow, so interesting. So my guy, Jolubuki, started out demanding gifts, and in the end, he was the gift giver. There's a character arc there that I think would be very fascinating to learn more about. The Flying Canoe, French Canada. This one's straight out of Quebec. Here we go. The Chasse Gallery tells of the lonely loggers who make a pact to ride a magical flying canoe home for Christmas. Oh, that's sad. The only catch is that they must avoid mentioning God and steer clear of church steeples or risk losing their souls. What? The story blends Christian warnings with French Canadian folklore. It highlights the isolation and longing of early wilderness life. Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense, right? People having to go out into the woods. Back in the day, getting around, not super easy. So they'd be back there probably away from their families in the cold, harsh, dark winter, doing logging, trapping, all kinds of stuff like that. These guys just missed home. They just wanted to be home for the holidays. Now all this stuff about not mentioning God and avoiding churches, I don't know. That's extra. I don't know what that is. I don't know enough about it to know for sure. It tells me that the flying canoe is maybe... I don't know what that is. Maybe it's not powered by good energy. Possibly. I don't know. It's hard to say. But that's very interesting. And I feel for those dudes stuck out in the woods. Okay, Lucy Night, Norway. I could be saying it wrong. You know the drill. On December 13th, the dark spirit Lucy roams the night, checking whether people are prepared for the holidays. Those who haven't completed essential chores might face her wrath. Yule on the 13th. I am going to definitely face this wrath, guys, because it takes time to prep all this stuff, and often it's like the 11th hour, right? 23rd, 24th even. I'm still doing stuff. I'd be cooked. Wow. Those who haven't completed essential chores might face their wrath, depicted in some stories as abduction or destruction. I will say that abducting me or destroying me is not going to help me get closer to preparing for the holidays. I will say that. And I don't want to get abducted. I will say that. Children were told to be inside before dark on this night. The legend reflects winter's urgency for the long months ahead. Very cool. A lot of winter cautionary tales here. The Wild Hunt, Northern Europe. The Wild Hunt is a spectral procession of gods, ghosts, and ancestral spirits sweeping across the winter sky. Wow. Crazy. Witnessing it is considered an omen of disaster, war, or death. Many cultures blamed unexplained storms or howling winds on the hunt's passage. The legend connects the darkest part of winter with the twin veil between worlds. I mean, I could see why they would say that, right? Because, I mean, if you've ever been stuck in a winter storm, there is no visibility. Things suddenly look otherworldly. It's dark way earlier. The landscape is transformed. It's cold. It's desolate, right? So you could almost imagine that it's like the other side creeping in, right? Scary. It's scary. The legend of Saint Nicholas and the Butcher from France. Okay, let's hear more. This story tells of a butcher who kidnapped 3 children and hid their bodies in a barrel of salt. Not okay, dude. That is messed up. Saint Nicholas discovered the crime and miraculously resurrected the children. Yo, Santa, my guy. Exposing the villain. The tale reinforced Saint Nicholas as a protector of the innocent. Love that. It was traditionally told to warn children against wandering too far. I've never heard that story. I've literally never heard that story. It is wild. That is grisly. That is grisly. But I like it. I'm glad that those kids are okay. Hans Trapp, France, and Alsace. Hans Trapp is based on a real knight who was excommunicated for his cruelty. After his death, his spirit supposedly roamed the countryside disguised as a scarecrow-like figure. Here we are again with the straw, searching for victims. He later became associated with Christmas as a punisher of naughty children. His story reflects local fears of corruption and greed. That is very interesting. Holy lifting. Yo, if I were a kid in the olden days, best behaved kid you've ever met, I would have been so chill. Chores, done. I'll do them all. What do you need? Milk the cow, done. Right? Like, feed the pigs, done. Fetch the eggs, done. Mop the floor, yeah. Got you. What do you need? I'm your guy, because the last thing I need is to be hunted by one of these things. Wild. Holy lifting. Okay. Okay, we got Père Foutard, France and Belgium. I could be saying it wrong. Père Foutard, or Father Whipper. Oh my god. Accompanies St. Nicholas during December visits. So they're like an entourage, they roll together. While Nicholas rewards good children, Foutard dishes out punishment. Oh man. Yo, they're like a tag team. This is terrible. Sometimes with a whip or switch. His grim appearance varies by region, but often describes dark robes and soot-covered skin. He represents the harsher side of behavioral enforcement. Holy lifting. So he's like a goth Santa. It's like Santa's brother or something, and they travel together in this sleigh, and he's like, doesn't even want to be there. And Santa's jolly, as you know, stoked, wants to give all these presents out, right? Not Père Foutard, I will say that. He is ready to lay down some hurt. It's so wild. Dishing out punishment. That is crazy. Okay. The Kun boar of Yule, Norse folklore. The Yule boar was sacred to the god Freyr, symbolizing prosperity and protection. Ancient Norse feasts involved oaths sworn on a boar's bristles and offerings made in his honor. The boar represented strength in surviving winter. Modern echoes of the tradition persist in holiday ham and decorative boar imagery. Cool. Love a nice holiday ham. Who doesn't? The Yule log. Europe. Burning the Yule log dates back to pre-Christian rituals designed to drive away evil spirits. Families would select a large log to burn slowly throughout Christmas, ensuring warmth and protection. Its ashes were saved for luck or used to guard against storms. The tradition eventually inspired the modern dessert, bûche de Noël. Okay. Interesting. So was this thing massive? If they're just burning it for like weeks, it must have been a huge thing. Very interesting. Okay, now we have the Yule log ash ritual. In Scandinavian variants, the ashes from the Yule log were examined for omens. Patterns or cracks might predict prosperity, illness, or even death in the coming year. Farmers scattered ashes around fields to bless the crops. These rituals reinforced the log's rule as a link between Earth, ancestors, and the natural world. Very cool. Very cool. The Yule log. I've heard of the Yule log, but I didn't know any of that, so that's very interesting. Okay, we're back to Iceland, you guys. The lessons. They emphasize generosity during winter hardship. Okay. So many of these stories are meant to be motivational, or giving some kind of moral lesson, or protecting you against some outside force like winter storms or the uncertainty of winter or famine or that kind of thing. It's very interesting to see all this presented this way. Belschnickel, Germany and Pennsylvania Dutch. Belschnickel appears before Christmas dressed in ragged furs, carrying a switch in one hand and treats in the other. He quizzes children and punishes those who lie about their behavior. Unlike Santa, he arrives alone and unannounced. His legend persists in some American communities as a blend of fear and festivity. I know about Belschnickel from The Office, for sure, because Dwight was big into, I think his family was like Pennsylvania Dutch, and I think he dressed up as the Belschnickel around the holidays. And then maybe like I watched a movie, like one of those Netflix Christmas movies that was talking about Belschnickel. It's very interesting. Okay, we got another one. The Christmas She-Wolf, Romania. This spirit is said to appear on Christmas Eve, taking the form of a huge spectral wolf. She tests passersby with illusions or frightening encounters, but rewards those who show courage. Oh my god, that feels like entrapment. The wolf's appearance is tied to old beliefs about shape-shifting and winter predators. Her legend embodies both danger and wisdom. That is so wild. Wild. Okay. The Poinsettia legend in Mexico. This legend tells of a poor girl who had nothing to bring to church for Christmas. An angel encouraged her to offer simple weeds, which miraculously bloomed into a vibrant red poinsettia. The flower then became associated with humanity and purity. Today, poinsettias are a global Christmas symbol. Is that where that comes from? That is so interesting. I didn't know. We have a poinsettia. I didn't know. Is that where it comes from? That's so cool. Christmas skeleton parades, Guatemala. Some regions in Guatemala feature processions meant to cleanse the community before Christmas. Effigies, or skeletal figures, represent misfortune or negative energy being carried away. Burning or discarding these figures symbolizes renewal and purification. The tradition stems from blending indigenous practice with Catholic celebrations. That is so cool. I love that. Oh my god. That was loud, sorry. The Christmas owl omen, Scotland. Seeing an owl perched near a home on Christmas Eve was once considered a supernatural omen. It could signify a coming message from the spirit world or warn of hidden dangers. You know what? I've heard that. I've been told that, like here, if you see an owl near your home, that's could be a bad sign. Owls were seen as guardians of thresholds between realms. Their presence added an eerie tone to quiet winter night. I think that one is still, like, ongoing. I could be wrong about that. The Christmas bells of dead sailors, Nova Scotia. Local Canadian one, love it. Coastal communities reported hearing phantom bells during winter storms around Christmas. These sounds were believed to come from drowned sailors lost at sea. The bells were interpreted as warnings or messages from beyond. Maritime culture often blurs the lines between haunting and heritage. That is beautiful. That is beautifully said. Maritime culture often blurs the line between haunting and heritage. That's so interesting. The Ghost of Christmas Supper, England. In older English folklore, it was believed that leftover food on Christmas Eve attracted the spirits of ancestors. Families sometimes set extra places at the table to honor them. The tradition underscores Christmas as a time when the living and dead briefly coexist. Wow. That is really eerie and interesting. Wow. The legend of Alupa. Alupa is a mountain spirit. This is in Peru. A mountain spirit said to appear during Christmas storms to test the community's generosity. Those who offer shelter or food receive blessings, while the selfish encourage misfortune. The story blends, and in mountain worship with Christian giving traditions, it emphasizes reciprocity between humans and the natural world. So interesting. So I think, like, based on my interpretation of that, basically it pulls up, and it's like a peasant in need kind of thing. It like shifts into this thing that's in need, and the people that shoo it away, cooked, and the people that are like, yo, come in, like, warm up by the fire, here's some snacks, amazing. Maybe that's what it is. That's kind of the way I interpreted it. That could be the case. You always hear about, like, the knight who sees the old crone, right? And if they, like, are kind to the old crone, then they get treated well. They get some gift or some journey or something. And if they're not nice to the old crone, they get the punishment. I've heard that story before. I have heard that. Alright, we're going to finish up with another Canadian one. The Christmas Mummers in Newfoundland. Mummers dress in disguises, often wearing curtains, masks, or mismatching clothing, and visit homes during Christmas season. Families try to guess their identities, and once revealed, everyone celebrates together. Historically, the costumes allowed people to break social norms and bring humor to winter gatherings. The custom remains an iconic part of Newfoundland culture. I have never heard of that. I wonder if that still happens. It's so interesting. I love that so much. Guys, this is by no means an exhaustive or complete account of the global folklore and legends around Christmas. These are just some interesting ones that I've kind of picked out to share with you guys. They are so interesting and so fascinating to learn about. I hope you've enjoyed that journey as well. I'm so curious to hear about these ancient ideas and how they ripple into the present day and how they've changed over time. I think that's so fascinating. It's also interesting seeing, like, the recurrent themes despite geography, despite time differences. Like, it's amazing to see. So I'm pretty stoked about that. One thing I will say is it's important to not be naughty, because if you're naughty or if you're not generous, it seems like no matter what the legend or no matter what the folklore, you gotta be respectful, productive, generous, kind, and behave well. Or you face the wrath of a lot of supernatural and very powerful entities that will absolutely cook you, or literally into stew, or stuff you with straw. That is terrifying. So be good, for goodness sake. I'll leave it there for today. You guys, thank you so much for joining, and yeah, we'll see you again tomorrow. Bye.